Hi everyone, welcome to Zagreb Guitar Festival's Music Delights. Here with us is the guitar phenom Goran Krivokapić. As I joked just a second ago, I would love to speak to him in a different language, but it's then doubtful that many of you would understand what we're actually saying. Welcome Goran. I will say a few just introductory things. I have known of Goran for a long time, ever since I was a kid and starting out playing guitar. I remember my teacher when I was about 12. We were driving towards Italy, and his name is Anton Chernugal, and he kept saying, "Oh, do you know this guy Goran Krivokapić? Goran Krivokapić. He had just won Alessandria competition." I'm like, I don't know. I don't know him, but later on I got to know Goran's work and his playing, and I've been a fan ever since. Goran, welcome. It's a great pleasure to say hello to you. You're located where now?
Thanks, Mark. It's a really great pleasure to be here. Well, I'm located in Cologne, in Germany. So yeah, it's about.
And I'm in Los Angeles, so we have been trying to coordinate this time difference. It's 9 hours between us, but nonetheless, it's great that technology makes it all work. So I will start by showcasing a little bit of Goran's playing. This was recorded a few years ago, and the reason why I am choosing this video will be revealed after we have a quick listen. So, this sonata, Goran, was written by Franz Wertmüller, wasn't it?
Uh, well, depends how you look.
Yeah, exactly. So last week we hosted Tilman Hopstock, and with him we were talking about pseudonyms and pieces that he wrote under different names, and this in fact is his piece, and I thought it would be just a lovely way to tie everything in. Goran, lovely playing. A few comments there on the YouTube video were how light you play, how how not of a problem is when you play this sonata. It's just so easy going and light. So I think it's just a wonderful introductory video. So with that, I want to ask you, how did you actually start guitar, and what drew you to the instrument? Was there a specific anecdote, or is just simply you just picked the guitar in music school?
Well, I don't think there is a there is a special story about it. It was in those days it was kind of normal in many places in the former Yugoslavia and also in Montenegro that the music school teachers would come to regular classes of our primary school, and then they would we would have like an introductory class to all the instruments. So they talked about it, and demonstrated some things, and then we could, anybody that was interested could apply, and at some point then do the entrance examination to the music school, which would be, they would test your pitch and rhythm, and then after 1 year of solfege, you could then choose an instrument. So I went that same path, and then after 1 year of solfege, I was thinking of either guitar, piano, or violin, and so I at the end I chose guitar somehow. I guess the affordability of of guitar for my parents probably actually definitely played a role there, because I could sense that they were my dad was kind of trying to steer me in that way, saying, well, yeah, I mean, of course you can choose whatever you want. Piano is a great instrument, but I mean, it's isn't it something for girls? so I mean, and I our first neighbor was a girl who played the piano, so I immediately had that association. Oh, maybe he has right. Maybe I should just go for something more boy-like. And then he was like, yeah, of course violin is a great instrument, but is it something that I mean, people just play it on the street, kind of anybody can do it. And I was like, oh well, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna choose guitar. So this is more or less how it happened. But I mean, I never have regretted it since. So yeah, I think it was a good decision.
It's funny that you mentioned this, because the way I ended up with guitar is rather similar. My dad was steering me at the beginning with his propositions.
Yeah.
On my end, however, it was that my dad thought that perhaps I could do a little bit of singing while playing the chords. Curious, was that the case for you as well?
Not really. Not that I could remember. In my case, it was the other reason. I think it was when my father was a boy. He lived. They lived also in the same town where I grew up, which is Biela in Montenegro, in the Bay of Kotor, and there was. In that time, quite a famous guitar player in former Yugoslavia, who was also one of Segovia's pupils, Jovan Jovicic. And he gave a concert at some point in Biela, in the I think it was a movie theater. It was an old movie theater in Biela where he gave the concert, and my father was there, and he really was very impressed with that. It left a huge impression on him, and he basically fell in love with the guitar. And but in those days, it was also not possible for him to buy guitar or have guitar lessons anywhere or from anybody, and so it always was kind of this wish that he had, and he couldn't really fulfill. So I guess also that then this wish turned into reality through me somehow, also for him. And
well, that's very beautiful. Yeah. How old were you when you started?
I was 8.
Okay. Yeah, so a pretty regular age, I suppose. Starting with solfege first and then transitioning to instrument. Is it, many guitar players globally notice, as I said before, the ease with which you play. Has that been always the case, where was guitar just a normal sort of stroll in the park for you, or did you practice a certain way to achieve that? I mean, when maybe when do you remember this becoming sort of a matter of fact? Just playing and things would fly. In a way, I'm asking from a pedagogical sense also because many students may want to achieve that level. So if there's some secret that you could share with us, I'm sure many of us would appreciate it.
Sure. Well, um, not really sure what to say there because I yes, some things have definitely been, this has been going on progressively, I think. So of course, when I was in my first age, my first years when I started playing, some few things went quite lightly and easily, but then over the years, of course, I needed to practice a lot to achieve things that were not so easy, and then those things became somehow also easier, and so yeah, it's hard to say, but
Mhm.
I think, of course, practicing in a way, focused practicing for sure has an effect. This is something that I've been experiencing over years, and is a thing that I learned that uh, when you practice, even if you don't have too much time, but if you practice really focused, and if you don't try to take any shortcuts, but really dedicate as much of your energy and time and focus
Mhm.
into what you want to achieve, then it's going to pay off somehow, and you're going to be seeing the results sooner than if you try to kind of do everything and to make it work immediately. So
Mhm. That's, I suppose, a
um,
good. Yeah, that's, I suppose, a good piece of advice for students becoming professionals is when we graduate out of universities, we become working artists, and there's less and less time to work on our instruments. So therefore, the little time that we do afford to have with our instrument is very valuable, and thus we need to use it very diligently and with great focus. The
yeah.
reason, Goran, why I asked this question is because I remember seeing a Paco de Lucia performance here at Disney Hall just a few years before he passed away, and he was relatively old at that time, but he still had the playing chops. Scales were flying. Everything was great, but I remember trying to understand how is it that he plays it with such ease but powerful still. And one thought was that perhaps he's thinking musically about technique. He's thinking, instead of a scale being a set of many notes, he's just thinking of, hey, this is just one line, this is
Direction.
one phrase, this is direction. And I'm now here, and I'm going there, and in the middle it's just notes. So that's a little bit what I was wondering when I asked you, because for example, the Wertmüller sonata that we listen to, I hear a lot of that. I hear just pathways going up and down, and even though that there's many notes inside. So is that partially true, or am I imagining things?
No, I think well, for me at least it works. It really does work. If I think of phrasing of lines of direction,
Hmm.
then just as you said, those notes in between, although there is a lot happening, they just become part of this line, and yeah, that could be that, maybe that easiness that you talk about. Of course, I mean, those notes in between at some point, they also need to need to be practiced.
Of course.
But one of course doesn't shouldn't lose this line out of sight. And it's yeah, it's also, I think, well, one important thing is what I hear pretty often is from, let's say, also my students. Like um, if I suggest something to be done a certain way, um, the first initial kind of response would often be, well, yeah, but that's so difficult. So and then I'm thinking, well, if you think that's now another question, but if you think what's not difficult, right? Well, when you're 7 and you start playing guitar, everything is difficult, right? So there can't be really, when you're 7, talk about something which is idiomatic on guitar. There is, like, I mean, I know some people that would argue that the only idiomatic thing to do on guitar would be, just to go like that, right, up and down, and do this, right, or when you have piano, that you just bang all the keys. But over the years, I think we also in a way we choose what is idiomatic, and we if we set up certain goals,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think this also has our seeing of it has also a lot to do with everything,
Mm-hmm.
with that easiness that you
Beautifully
mentioned.
said. I mean, it's essentially concluding that the head and the heart then serve the purpose of music, and the technique is the vehicle to make it happen, to make it work. And I think that's great when and if we achieve that level. I wanted to ask you briefly. You've been to many guitar festivals around the world. You know the scene in and out. Where do you think it is going? Do you think there's hope for us? Do we have to be afraid of the future? Obviously now with the current pandemic, it's hard to say what the new normal will be. But what has your experience been traveling? Up until say about March 2020.
uh yes. um Well, yeah, as you said, yeah, we don't know now what's how is going to what's going to change, and things are changing already for everybody. But I could say that I was quite optimistic about where we are all going, where the guitar world is going. I would hear a lot of kind of complaints in the past that guitar world is a little bit um, on the side, or it is not really very well integrated into the big family,
Mm-hmm.
of musical instruments, and it's not really on the same scene, which it has sure, it has its points. But on the other hand, I think that guitar has been really, and guitar players and many people have put really a lot of effort into changing this, and I think also that it has been changing, and um, that we are really getting um, into a different level, and it has been rapidly growing, the level of guitar playing, also just the number of guitar players, the number of guitar teachers, educators. Um, so in that way. And also on the other hand, when you speak about guitar world in itself, that is also something that I think we shouldn't be try to run away from, because it is sure it is, there is a guitar world, but it's also a realistic world that exists, and we are part of it, and it's a very nice, beautiful world as
Mm.
well. Um, but I what I could experience is that in general the guitar players also are being quite well, and this is what I hear from other instrumentalists too, that when I think of guitar players, they think of somebody that is really that we are kind of very well connected,
Mm.
and and very very much modern in a way.
Mm.
For example, well, just look what we are doing right now. So,
Sure.
one example.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, so I'm quite positive about
Mhm.
what's happening in
Well, that's beautifully
now.
said. I mean, the one thing that I think I would sort of underline from what you said is that many classical guitar players, tend to try to escape the embrace of this world, but perhaps we shouldn't. We should take it all in and love it. It's a great world. Many great players, many great teachers, festivals, so many festivals left and right. So there's a lot to be looking forward to. So that's, I mean, that's beautiful. That's beautiful to remember. I have one just a quick little question. I remember hearing you play, and this is a concerto that usually doesn't get played very much. The Ohana concerto. Did you play this only once? I remember hearing it. I think it was at a Koblenz festival in Germany. Did you ever have a chance to play it again? The reason why I'm asking this, obviously, is we always really just play the one Rodrigo concerto, and it's famous, it's beautiful, but there's much to be explored outside of that. So, have you explored much else than Ohana, and what did you actually think of that concerto? I thought it was played beautifully when I heard it.
Thank you very much. Yes, I well, yeah, this is the this is quite unfortunate. I think that there is not always too much opportunity to perform well any other concertos than Concerto de Aranjuez. I think probably about when I'm asked to play with orchestras, it's for sure more than 90% of it is Aranjuez.
Mhm.
And but talking about Ohana, yeah, that was very good. That was very nice opportunity to do it there at Koblenz. Now you ask if I played it again. I honestly don't remember if it was once or twice
Mhm.
in but it was um, well, it was in anyhow. If it was only once, that was Koblenz, and if it was twice, it was also Koblenz.
Mm.
I remember
Well,
playing in Koblenz a couple of times with orchestra, and I remember there at least it was planned, but I can't remember now if it happened or not.
Well, that is
Um,
fantastic. I mean, we should be very thankful to that festival and the organizers to for bringing such pieces forth. It's really, I don't remember ever hearing it live other than that one time. Which other concertos do you play?
well, the other concertos. Well, I've played all the Rodrigo concertos, which is of course the Aranjuez, and then also the Fantasia, then Concerto para una Fiesta,
Mm-hmm.
then also the double concerto Madrigal, and then the Concerto Andaluz. That was also in Koblenz for guitars and orchestra, and then the Villalobos concerto, then very nice, beautiful new concerto by Gerhard Drost. Also a double concerto by him for two guitars and a quartet, and then Tedesco concerto, then
I mean, that's quite a lot. That's much more than what your average guitarist would usually play. So that's fantastic that you had that chance.
Well, yeah, thinking now of it, there were quite many and nice. It was all very nice experiences. Also,
And which one is your favorite?
Well, it's really it's hard to say. Well, Aranjuez is. I mean, of course, there is a reason that Aranjuez is so much loved, right? And that it is the most probably the most popular concerto ever, right? Because it is really beautiful. That is definitely also one of my favorite ones, and but other Rodrigo concertos as well. I really can't. I
have to say, huh?
Can't say. Yeah, I would have to go through that list somewhere of of it and then think again.
Well, I mean, I wish for all of us to be so lucky to have such an opportunity to play so many different concertos, But nonetheless, Rodrigo Aranjuez is fantastic. I want to segue a little bit into another part of your musical existence, which is this one right here. I will share my screen. There we go. All right, so look who joined the conversation. It's the other part of the Montenegrin guitar duo. So, Daniel, I'm sorry we're speaking in English. I know we could all speak a different language, but you two know each other very well.
Well, I'm not actually sure.
So I'm glad that you could join us as a surprise guest. We've been talking to Goran for a little bit and learning about his upbringing as a musician and what he likes to play and which concertos he's played and so forth. But I've observed the Montenegrin duo doing all sorts of cool projects for years and years now, and I think it's an important thing to to showcase. So I know now perhaps you're not touring and meeting, but in the when things are normal, how do you actually maintain your duo? Because you guys live in two different countries, and but yet when we hear you play, it's like you're practicing every day together.
Well, maybe Goran would like to say something because he's. Yeah.
Well, maybe Daniel would like to say. Well, what we do is we actually, okay, sure, we live many kilometers apart, right? But we do also meet to practice, to rehearse. We dedicate some time, especially to that. So either I travel to Podgorica, or Daniel comes to Cologne, and then we rehearse for some days or a week. We send lots of recordings to each other as well. We keep in touch all the time, and discuss different things. The interpretation, the fingerings, many aspects of playing together. And then, of course, when we do have our concerts, then we always, or most of the time, we just would meet also in advance, and practice, or just after the concerts, leave a week later or something like this, so that we can still do something else, and work on a new repertoire. And
I think this is an important, important lesson for all of us to learn, because you have obviously established a successful duo, a successful partnership, living far apart. This is the case with many musicians. Getting a teaching job somewhere, traveling far, but still wanting to play together. How do you keep up the quality? So these would be a few ideas that are very useful. So talking about different ways of fingering a certain phrase, and tempos, sending recordings back and forth. These are all very good suggestions. I suppose, perhaps though, it is becoming easier and easier with the longer you play together. How long have you been playing together, Daniel?
Well, I have to think about it, but first time we played together was sometime, it was something like 2004 or 5.
Mm.
We were studying together in Maastricht with Carlo Marchione. And then afterwards we did a couple of nice projects with orchestra, with Montenegrin Symphony Orchestra, and also some concerts. And then from 2010 we started to perform regularly, and we produced a couple of CDs. And let's say from 2010 it became really very obvious that we are becoming a kind of a serious duo with this kind of.
It certainly sounds very serious and dedicated. Recordings that
Yeah.
I listened to, the
I just
post and
yeah, sure.
and it's all that. Yeah.
Just wanted to add something to Goran's previous talking about way of working, which is everything was really correct. What is also important is, before you start a kind of a project, uh, it must be always very clear and obvious what you really, I mean, what the ensemble wants to do with the project, and to share this really the same idea. I mean, just to be together with the idea, which is in connection with the way of how you would like to make it. You mentioned fingerings, tempo, so it has to be really exact, especially if you deal with something like music of Johann Sebastian Bach.
Mm.
For example, the music we did together was I think 4 years project, where we transcribe, practice, talk about it, change the things. Just after the concert, change some things, practice again, and then do some new fingerings and stuff. So it was quite exciting, and it was really great time we spent. It was very complex, but it's really, if you want a nice sound and good outcome, it has to be really very clear, and you have to share, to follow the same idea, just together upon the same idea. So that's very important. The rest is, of course, you have to organize your time, and then to meet, and then do all these kind of things, to be very, very precise with everything. And of course, it's possible. It's possible to do it.
Well, Goran, Daniel once before told me of an interesting anecdote just before a concert. I don't remember exactly where it was, but and maybe I remember the anecdote wrong, so you can feel free to correct me. But supposedly you were about to play the concert and you got hungry, so you went to find a hamburger, and you and essentially a few minutes before there was still no sign of you anywhere. So the organizer was was getting nervous, and then you came and finished your burger and went to stage, and everything was fine. In that light, I kind of wanted to ask, is there any other funny? Well, first of all, is this a true anecdote? And secondly, do you have any funny anecdotes from your travels that you may want to share? It's always fun to hear such anecdotes.
Well, first thing, I think it's definitely not true.
Okay.
It was not a hamburger. It was a burek, I think.
Burek. Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing, the other funny things that I don't know what's the. There are many things. Not sure how much I'm allowed to share with you.
Well, if of course the audience would enjoy something funny, but if it's too private, that's quite all right. Even this one with the burek.
No,
it's funny.
Well, I think one thing that was. One thing that was in my mind. Well, now remembering it now, it was quite funny. But at that moment, it was quite it was quite weird. Daniel had some injury in his knee, his whole leg was in gips, and he wasn't able really to walk properly. So and this happened just a few weeks before our performance in Istanbul, and and then you see, so he was kind of. I mean, we all knew that he was going to get well eventually. So it kind of became a joke of the festival, right? His knee, and and I kind of joined in right into this, and then just before our concert, right, I did something strange with my neck while sleeping, and then when I woke up, I was like that, and I couldn't really push it back, right? So and that was not funny anymore for me, right? And then in any case, we had to play that evening, so Daniel came onto the stage, right, with his knee like that, and I was like that, and then I would turn my head towards him because he sits here on the right, and then I think the people thought we were pulling their leg or something, because they just burst out laughing. They thought it was a sketch, but it was really true.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, that's certainly you could see how that could be funny. Yeah.
Kind of gave us a glimpse at that moment what it will be like in many years, right? Us performing as a duo.
Well, we're all hopeful that you're going to be performing for a long and healthy time. And this actually is a beautiful transition to my other question: is comparing building a solo career to a career playing as a duo. How do the two compare? Is one more fun than the other? Is it better? Is it worse? What would your thoughts be, Daniel?
Sorry, can you repeat? I think I didn't.
Sure. So my question was, how does a career built in a duo versus a solo compare? Is one more fun than the other? Is one more easy than the other? How would you compare, just personally speaking?
Well, it's difficult to actually to compare and difficult to describe. I would need to think about it. It's definitely. I mean, each side has their own good and not so good things, of course. I mean, traveling in a group can be quite interesting, of course, especially when you are touring a lot, and it can be really interesting and fun because otherwise, when you do solo, a lot of solo. Actually, I was not doing a lot of solo through my career. Goran can say much more about that, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm also doing some solo projects, and it's different. And I think it's very nice if a musician could actually feature in both kind of directions because you can definitely learn a lot of things from your colleague, from your duo partner. That's for sure, especially when you have such a incredible artist as Goran is.
Mm.
And then, of course, you can have this kind of uh, and especially, of course, if you work on such a nice program as we did for years, and that inspired me really a lot. And then I try to keep the same ideas or to follow the same musical ideas and principles doing my solo stuff. So uh, and vice versa, of course, if you want to play in a serious duo and do serious things, you have as a soloist, of course, you have to be really in a good shape, your technical abilities and your way of presenting yourself. So I would like to say it's really good if you can combine these two things.
Mm.
Of course, it's different because I previously I was thinking that playing in a duo or ensemble gives you less responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why less.
It's only you only play half as many notes, right? So
Yeah, but then
only
actually
half as
it's a
difficult.
different. It's then I got more responsibilities, and it's really can be really very tough because there are some important parts that they are depending on, especially on you, that you are alone, and the whole actually concert or recording is depending on your role. Then it gets really. I mean, orchestral musician could also say more about this. It can be quite stressed. So it's a different kind of responsibility than playing in solo, of course, solo concert or
What about for you, Goran?
Yeah, exactly. If I totally agree with this what Daniel said, and if I could add something, I think um, some people do tend to think that it's kind of less effort or something like this, but well, it's definitely in a way I think it's more fun for sure. Also, this the whole traveling and everything is and to go through different steps to the process of learning piece, and being able to enjoy this music together, right? That's definitely gives you something more than when you do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely also not just half notes, but actually it is I think really more effort all in all when you want to be really a serious ensemble and not sound like two solists, right? But really like one unity, one ensemble. Then for sure more effort
Mm-hmm.
that you need to put. But we didn't ever think when we started playing together. We never thought actually of the months or anything like this. But now after so many years, we can see that it is actually a lot of effort that you put. But in any case, you really get rewarded for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as Daniel mentions, also it really also helps each one of us, also in our in being a solo artist as well, because we both learn from each other, and then of course playing Bach's music in general, playing you just played that part from the English suite. Playing such pieces, of course, help us also a lot when we do Bach solo pieces, and yeah.
I would want to say perhaps you sort of mentioned that, but it's perhaps not really. Perhaps there is half the notes, but there is maybe twice the responsibility playing in a duo. You have the responsibility not just to yourself, but also to your partner to do well each time you go out there. So just
if I can just follow.
Absolutely.
There was our last concert was actually in March. It was in Chisinau, in Moldova. It was a very nice festival and a great concert hall with great audience, and it was a fantastic experience. And then what happened during the performance at the end of the first half, the string at Goran's guitar just broke. It's just in the middle of the performance. So it was the situation when you are at the concert. It's a very tricky situation because you have to decide what to do. I've heard something. I turned on the left. I've seen that the string is gone, and then Goran was also surprised. That was just in the middle of his solo, but then he decided to continue to perform, which was, and of course I knew it that he would do it. It was a decision that we just brought in a millisecond. It was very. Yeah, it was a big surprise, and to have this on the stage, it's quite shocking. But then we both continued as nothing happened. So you see, 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I don't know how would I react. I would probably stop, or I would get crazy or shocked or whatever. But then you learn some things that when you know each other for a long time, then of course you just try to predict what the other person would do. And we also were talking a lot about that while rehearsing. I mean, that thing never happened before, but for some other reasons, we were always like practicing just that if something happens with another guy, then the other guy just continue to perform whatever occur. So these kind of preparations helps us in these situations, which are quite rare, of course, but can happen.
Well, it just shows what then the quick dose of adrenaline, what it does to the focus, and makes perhaps the performance even spicier, So I'm happy you did well in that situation. I have one quick last question before I ask both of you for life's advice, to all of us. So I was wondering. Sorry, I find this funny, but which is your favorite part of the Adriatic coast, and why is it the Slovenian part of the coast?
Why is it?
Why is it? So let me explain this silly question. Slovenia really only has about 32 kilometers of coast, and Montenegro has much more. I'm not sure how many kilometers, but I know it's quite a lot, and the coastline over there is very beautiful. I only really visited maybe once or twice, but I hope after this COVID pandemic passes that I'll be able to go and visit back. So, and of course, welcome to Slovenia as well. There's a lot to explore on that 32-kilometer portion of the coast. So with this funny little question that makes no sense, I wanted to ask both of you, and maybe Goran, you could start. If you would give one advice, or just general sort of thought to young up and coming guitar players, full of ambition and big eyes for the open road ahead, what would you say?
So let's see.
Practice your scales, maybe.
Practice your scales. Listen to your teachers. Well, depends. Yeah, no. Well, listen to listen to yourself and your listen to your gut feeling also. Don't take any shortcuts, and just be truthful, be honest to what you're doing, and the results will always follow.
Beautiful. What about you, Daniel?
I would just add I would just add something to things that Goran said, because I share the same ideas with him. At the end, I would just say, don't be afraid. Let's be very, show your courage, and don't be afraid. Just grab the chance and try to do your best.
Follow your heart bravely, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. I'm glad we were able to connect despite the distance, despite the issues with the pandemic and all sorts of other troubles that are happening these days. Goran, thank you so much for being a part of this Q&A, and Daniel, thank you for coming in for a second there as a surprise guest. I enjoyed that part a lot. So to all of you out there listening, I hope you get a chance to hear Goran play for us in the evening for the Zagreb Guitar Festival Music Delights. Thank you again, guys, for being here with us, and I hope to get to see you in person soon.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you so much, and I would like to just to greet everybody, and thanks for following the Eurostrings programs during Zagreb Guitar Festival. I hope that we will get back to reality, maybe not this year, but next year, that everything will be, the same as last year. Or we just hope that we are going back to normality again. It'd be very nice to meet you all, guys, and anywhere, Montenegro, Croatia, Germany. I'm looking forward very much to meet you all, guys.
Let's keep our fingers crossed, and our health at the best possible level. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.